I understand the allure of having big monitors. They're big and they're beautiful and they're 6 feet long and they eat fish and animals and all sorts of things, but you shouldn't keep one. And today, Dave Kaufman and I are going to show you why. We came all the way to Thailand to tell you why you shouldn't keep big lizards. My name's Adam.
And I'm Dave Kaufman.
You're watching Wickens Reptiles. Stick around. Okay, it's not that everyone shouldn't keep water monitors or large monitors in general, it's just that most people really shouldn't. And that's just simply because, well, look at the size of them, right? So let's walk around this park and I'm gonna tell you 3 reasons why monitors really do suck, but not actually. Just probably they suck for you. Unless you have a big room. Let's take a walk. Thank you. Okay, all right there. Traffic is that way. All right, moving on out. Moving on out, get out of here.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
So I am about 2 feet from this lizard right here, and we were just talking to another, I think his name was Jerome, that one. This one is Bertha, obviously, and as Dave said, eating well in this park. Now here's the thing, if you keep a monitor, you're probably gonna keep one in an 8 foot by 4 foot enclosure. The problem is, this animal is at least 6 feet long. If I laid beside this thing, it would dwarf me. And if I had to guess the weight on it, it's 7 or 8 cats in weight if I had to guess. So you can't just keep this thing in an enclosure where it can't move. If you look at this lake, the entire lake is gonna be full of these things. So yeah, sure, you could co-have them if you had this giant enclosure, but keeping something in an enclosure that you can buy from an online retailer or something that isn't custom made isn't going to cut it for these animals. So the number one thing that I wanted to talk about is size. The fact that an animal is 6 feet long means that they can't be kept in an 8 foot or even 12 foot enclosure. And you want to keep them somewhere where they have natural UVB if possible. And if you don't have that option, you need to have UVB all over the place. It would cost you a fortune to have these guys in a room or something like that because the UVB has to be close enough to them, and they need places to climb, and they need a place in the water as well. So just, I guess what I'm trying to say here is there's no possible way, in my opinion, that you can go to a store, buy an enclosure, or even if you build something, it's gotta be big enough that it's kind of like a child's room. So the number one thing is size. The second reason why I think giant monitors are not right for you and they kind of suck is, well, they cost a lot. The affordability is just not there. If you're gonna keep care of something like a blue-tongued skink or a leopard gecko, you're gonna be in a whole world of trouble if you try to do the same thing on the same budget for one of these water monitors. Their diet is not the same as your reticulated python. Even a 20-foot retic, if you could get one that big, is gonna be cheaper to feed than a water monitor. You can't just feed it rats. It needs a whole diversity in its diet. Now, this is not a care guide, so I'm not gonna give you the whole thing. This is not what this video is for. There is a lot of great care guides out there, and do your research if you get one, because like I said before, I'm not trying to deter you. I'm just trying to make sure you know what you're getting yourself in for. So, not only that, but when you buy this giant enclosure, which is gonna be custom built, or you're gonna make it yourself, which means that you have to buy the actual materials and then have the actual labor, which is gonna cost you, if not money from somebody else, but time of your own, it's gonna be very, very expensive. We're talking about something that's probably 12 foot by 12 foot or 18 by 12 foot. These animals need a ton of space. Not only that, but the water function. We talked a little bit about that during the size portion, but you're gonna need something that's gonna be filtered. How are you going to put a receptacle that's gonna be maybe, I don't know, hundreds or maybe even thousands of gallons, and how are you going to filter that system? You can't just put a 120-gallon tank inside of your enclosure. That's a 5-foot tank. These animals are 6 feet. These guys need room to actually swim. They're basically torpedoes in the water, the way that they move, and they're gonna need to climb out in the ground, and they're gonna be in the trees. So again, you're gonna need a much larger enclosure, not only in depth, not only in length, but in size. How are you gonna facilitate that? And how about all the bulbs that you're gonna need? They need a hot basking spot, not super hot, but hot enough that you're gonna need several different bulbs in different spots, and you're gonna need them at different levels. And also the UVB, which is gonna need to take place almost the entire enclosure, and you're gonna need more bulbs than one to do that. And you're gonna need to change those every 6 to 8 or 12 months, depending on the brand that you use. So at the end of the day, can you afford your animal, which is gonna be maybe 80 bucks if it's a water monitor, can you afford to actually take care of it? So if you're getting yourself in to get a water monitor, I highly suggest that you have your budget set aside first. Do a budget, make sure you can take care of the thing for a full year with the money you have in the bank, because things are gonna come up. And if a monitor gets sick, I promise you, it's not just gonna be 25 bucks to go to the vet, get to see a doctor and get a script. There's not a lot of doctors that are going to see a 6-foot monitor. And by doctor, I mean lizard doctor, a dogter, but for water dogs. A veterinarian is the word I was looking for. No matter how you slice it, it's not cheap to take care of water monitors or any giant monitors, croc monitors or Argus monitors or whatever type of monitor you're gonna take care of. So have money in the bank or don't get a monitor.
Are we even sure that one of these monitors ate Chandler's foot?
I'm trying to do a take here, Dave.
Sorry.
And I think that the third reason is pretty obvious. If you look at the size of these animals, is just the danger factor. Sort of, because you also watched me walk up to one and it was no big deal whatsoever. And then you saw me, if you watch Dave's video, which you can watch right here, walk up to one and it kind of lazily lobbed his tail sort of at my legs. He hit me on the back of both calves and it's gonna leave a bruise. I can't imagine if that animal really felt threatened and really tried to smack me. I would not be walking around, I'd be on Dave's shoulders, which would be very awkward and so tall. Is that what the world looks like for the rest of the world?
See?
How'd that feel?
It felt like he was just offering me his tail and saying, hey, will you pet my tail? Well, look at this. That was your tail whip, buddy?
I think you hurt his feelings, Dave.
I think I did. Sorry, buddy.
And that's the thing with these monitors, is they've got these tails that most of the time they'll use for defending themselves. So if you get an unsocialized animal or you get a baby and you don't socialize it, eventually you're gonna have an animal that is big, it's powerful, and it could be dangerous to you. Now on the flip side of that, I don't wanna paint these guys as monsters because they're not. Sure, they've got these razor sharp teeth, especially if it's something like a croc monitor, and these claws that are gonna be razor sharp too, but they don't wanna hurt you. They wanna make sure that they're not getting hurt. So there are ways that you can socialize these animals. The important thing is to get from a reputable breeder. Don't go to the park, don't go to Lumphini Park here in Thailand and pick one out of the wild, although they feel pretty socialized. You want to get something that is captive bred, that the breeder has done a little bit of work with, and something that you can do work with too. And don't let it go. Monitors are very smart. That's kind of the allure, the draw, is that they are so smart, and that means that if you don't handle them for a while, they can kind of lose the ability to trust you, and I think that's really important, is to have trust with your monitor, because if you don't, it's gonna be a really, really bad day for you one day. Because like I said before, they want to defend themselves, and if they think you are a threat, no, that is bad news bears. But I think that there's something to be said about having giant monitors, so have the space, have the time, have the money, and know what you're doing so that you don't get yourself hurt. I know I made this basically about water monitors, but I did travel across to Bangkok to make the video for you. Only take care of monitors if you are for sure the 1%. Now there is the other side of the coin too, in that there is reasons why you'd want to keep a giant monitor. First of all, they're giant monitors, and there's no doubt about it, giant monitors are cool. I can't really talk and say you couldn't keep giant reptiles. I love berms and retics. Those are my favorite animals to play with. My point is, most people shouldn't keep water monitors or large monitors, and especially ones that are water monitors, because you need a giant water source. Now there's a bunch of different monitor species like this, and it's difficult because you probably don't have an outdoor pond that is suitable, because you have to enclose them. Where with this park, the entire thing is enclosed, they're not gonna get out, and if you had one of these in your backyard, well, you'd have to fence it in, and you have to make it predator proof too, because when they're small, they are vulnerable, but when they're big, they're the apex predator. There's nothing here that's going to eat these guys. Now, of course, this giant lake doesn't need a filtration system, but if you had something like this in your backyard, it would need a filtration system, and that's gonna cost a lot too. My point isn't that monitors suck. Obviously, you know how this series goes. It's a pro monitor video. It's just that most people, 99% of people, can't take care of monitors properly, and that's why I came all the way to Bangkok in the middle of downtown to show you exactly that. So there you go. Those are the 3 reasons why giant monitors suck for most people. Now, Dave, if you had to give some advice to someone who's gonna get a water monitor or any monitor that's large anyway, what would you tell them?
I would tell you to do your research first. Buy the enclosure, set up the enclosure, learn everything you can. Your monitor lizard should be the last thing that you buy.
The last thing that you buy, and that goes for basically any reptile, but I think it's extra important for reptiles that get to 6 feet or bigger, that need trees to climb, areas to bask, and water systems as well, and that's gonna be the most expensive part in my opinion.
I agree. And if you're buying a monitor lizard because you want to invite your friends over to say, hey, look at this cool lizard I got, just do us all a favor and don't.
go to the zoo and pay the people off to pretend that it's your monitor that's at the zoo.
Bingo.
There's a better way to do it. So I want to say thanks so much to Dave for
My
being part of the
pleasure,
video.
man.
Thanks for taking me here. I want to say thanks to you for hitting that like button, hitting the subscribe button. It changes the way that people view this channel. And as always, a special thanks to the Patreon supporters. You guys know about all the crazy stuff Dave and I are doing over here before everybody else does. That statue yesterday was pretty cool, right?
Yeah, it was
In
amazing.
Bali. And that's only on Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you get all that and more, and this video super early. And because we do videos on Mondays and Thursdays, that means I'll see you in the next one. Rattle on.
Right on.